What we're going to do today is, as it says on this main slide here, is we're going to go through a bit of our counter sales application for bringing sort of point of sale functionality or, professional point of sale capabilities to Business Central. So a little bit of PowerPoint here, a little bit of an overview of counter sales, and we'll jump right into the software, have a look at it, and talk about pricing and things like that. But counter sales allows you to effectively extend Business Central to allow you to do, counter sales. In other words, trade desk or professional point of sales. So not necessarily, somebody, part-time high school student coming in and running your cash register for you. It's somebody that's going to be a professional salesperson at a parts counter or, trade desk or something like that. Now, that said, we do have a point of sale interface coming out, standard touchscreen point of sale interface and everything else. And counter sales does work well on tablets as it is today. So if you want to do floor sales, like you're walking around a showroom and you want to look up prices or generate a quote or an invoice or whatever, you can do that on a tablet today. Anyway, just to expand on these capabilities a little. So really what it does, it extends Business Central's standard interface to make it easier to enter those orders, and it adds a bunch of goodies there that help you generate an order for your customers, whether that's somebody at a counter or at a cash register or somebody over the phone. Like we've got lots of customers using this just to do order entry based on phone sales, right? We've got a barcode scanning interface. So if you do have that sales counter, people can come up and you can scan the barcodes and build up your sales order just by barcode scanning. The advanced search tools I'll get into. So in part sales specifically and things like that, it's very important to be able to easily find what people are looking for. And, multiple payments per order, like if you want to take cash and Visa. I'll cover all of these in the demo, so I won't read each individual point. One of the key things we're going to look at today is, the cash drawer integration and reconciliation, being able to, take cash or pop open a cash drawer and then also reconcile that cash drawer as well at the end of the day. A few other goodies, like if you want to track lost sales, like why are you losing sales? If you want to control who has the ability to change pricing on your orders, we have that all built in as well. And then a few new things that you'll see today compared to what we had a few months ago is the built-in credit card processing. So we can actually do, card on file. So if you've got, customers that you store their credit card and they're doing phone orders and you're shipping it out, we can run that credit card based on the saved credit card. And those credit cards, it's all PCI compliant. They're saved with the credit card processor. In this case, what you'll see today is the one we're using is eBiz Charge today. But that's stored on their system, so nothing's in Business Central. It's all very safe. We can also do card present. In other words, you can come in and use your chip card, tap or swipe to actually take payment, and also a virtual terminal, right? So instead of saving the card, somebody might phone up and, give you your credit card over the phone, you type it in and you run that credit card once. The other key thing on this, I mentioned who we're using today, but we do have a framework built out. So it's very easy to plug in new credit card providers, new payment providers. So if we do need to extend it, and actually we'll extend it out into Europe and other regions, we'll be able to plug in those additional providers very quickly and easily, or you could potentially do it yourself if you're a developer and have a preferred provider you use. A few other things frequently bought, typical type stuff where if you're on Amazon or whatever, it'll say, hey, you're looking at this product. Lots of people bought these other products with it. So we can do that automatically. Again, some of these other things that I've mentioned previously. All right. So that's basically the capability. So again, counter sales is really meant for that professional sales person, not necessarily meant for a traditional point of sale. Now, that said, I'd say at least half of our customers today are using it in sort of a traditional point of sale type environment where they're actually going in, they've got a cash register and, they're taking payments normally and using credit cards and all that kind of stuff. And it's not really that trade desk type of situation. So, probably about half are these traditional retail guys. We sort of focused on these guys historically, but a lot of, smaller retailers or, people that need a little bit more integration with Business Central or turning to counter sales because it is a really good retail solution. It does a lot of good stuff. And a lot of the things that we've done for those traditional retail customers are now just built into the product. You can plug it in and away you go. All right. So let's actually have a look at what are those things that, we've done in the product. So what you're seeing here is, of course, Business Central. And this is the role center for the counter sales order processor. There's another role center for sort of the store manager and things like that, but I've bookmarked a few of the things the store manager would normally see that now I can see here. But there's a whole bunch of stuff you can do here, right? So I won't get into these in a lot of detail. I'm going to show you. One of the things that was asked already was, warehouse integration. So we can do warehouse integration as well, right? Because obviously we provide warehouse management solutions. We have, probably the most popular warehouse management solution available for Business Central, which is Warehouse Insight. And we can integrate with that warehouse. We know warehousing very well. But it's going to depend on how people set up their warehouse. But for example, if you want to take all your payment at the counter and then send somebody to the back to pick up their product where they have to pick it and all that kind of stuff, we can manage that. So we can do all of that kind of stuff from within counter sales as well. So we do have that warehouse integration, all those sorts of things. So there's a bunch of stuff we can do here. What I'm going to do is instead of describing each one individually, I'll just jump in and run through a few different scenarios. So let's say I'm at the counter, somebody phones up and they want to do a price check or stock check or something like that. Well, I'll just jump into this price check option here. And when I do that, the first thing it's going to do is ask me who I am, because this is a shared register or a shared terminal at the counter. So you can do this in a couple of different ways. You can have, each person has their own dedicated terminal and they're just logged into Business Central the way you normally would, and it's their login and everything else. Or you can have a shared terminal set up, and then you can have authorized, salespeople for each of those terminals. And the way I've got it set up is almost every transaction I do, if I've got a 1 minute timeout, every transaction I do, I have to identify myself again. And I've got the option turned on that forces me to enter sort of my passcode to get into the system. So that way you can have a shared terminal, but you can still track who actually performed those transactions at that terminal, right? So the other advantage of that is you actually don't need the Business Central licenses for each of those employees that's working at that terminal. Like if you've got 10 different people that work shift work running a cash register, you don't need 10 Business Central licenses for each individual person. And I'll talk about this later after we're done, but the device license is sufficient for that. At any rate, let's get back to price check. So in here, the location code that pops up, that's based on, the identifier for this terminal. So this terminal that I'm at is tied to my main location, but I could, check pricing at other locations and things like that. And now, it's going to ask me the customer. And the reason I was going to do that is because customers can have different prices. If this was just some random person on the phone, I would just do my cash customer and check that, right? So let's say they just phone up and they say, hey, do you have, that whatever 1900-S thing, like Paris, chair black, that kind of stuff. And then I'll come in and I'll say, we need 5 of them. Okay, great. So here's the pricing, obviously, so we can give a quick price check, and we can give the on-hand availability and future availability for that item. So this is what I have in stock, but I actually only have 23 available. One of these might be on a sales order or something like that, and I know what my other locations have. And these other locations that show up here, you can sort of see in the background, it's got this thing called My Locations. So for this store, these are the only other locations we really want to check and send people to. I'll show you in a minute how I can check all the stores in my network and my company to see who has it. But, I only really care about these 3. I'm not going to send somebody to another state or something or a province to get the product. I only care about what these 3 stores have. And then maybe they say, oh, yeah, but I think we get a discount, right? And we say, oh, what company are you with? And they're like, oh, we're with, the Canon Group or whatever. Okay, let's check to see if you get a discount on that. Sure enough, you get a 10% discount if you're buying 5. If you're buying 1, you're not going to get any discount. So it does look at the actual pricing and everything required. And then I can just click add, and that will actually create the sales order for this customer, add this line onto the sales order, and I can ship it and I can do whatever I need or just hold it for the customer or whatever I need to do at that point. So it makes it very quick and easy without having to start a quote or a sales order, going to an item list. just to check pricing specific to that customer, check my inventory at the various stores, and actually start a sales order for that immediately. So nice little feature, but good to have. But now let's talk about, okay, we tell the customer, yeah, we got lots, and he says, okay, I'll come pick them up. And we just leave it. Later on, they come into the store and they want to pick that stuff up. So we need to actually initiate that sales order. So I've got a few ways of doing that. I've got this take order wizard, which is what a lot of people will use to start with, because we get to actually ask who the customer is and things like that. Or I can just start a sales order from scratch, very much like Standard Business Central. I start a sales order, I type in the customer and the contact and blah, 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 and away we go. Or if it's just a cash sale, I can just hit this. It creates a new sales order for a cash customer. And usually if you have this turned on, it also pops up the scanning interface immediately. And I just go beep, 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 post, and I'm done with my sales. So if you're doing mostly cash sales, this is the guy to use. You click on it, pops up, lets you scan barcodes or type in descriptions or items and generate my sales order. But I'm going to go through the take order wizard because somebody walks up to the counter. I come in here, and again, like I said, I've got a 1 minute timeout. So every 1 minute of inactivity in the system, I have to re-identify myself. You'd probably set this to 10 minutes or something like that. And actually, let me cancel this here. And if you just, if somebody is like that, John Roberts is still logged in, and somebody else walks up to the counter, they can just switch manually here, change who's at that specific terminal. Anyway, we'll go back to the sales order wizard, and I will the take order wizard, and I will identify myself, and now I can actually do a transaction. And what I can do here is I can search for a name. So ideally what you would do, all of you have been to stores and they say, hey, what's your phone number? Or, what's your typically phone number? Like, what's your phone number? Let me see if I can find you. So I'll come in and I'll type in maybe the last 4 digits of that phone number. Like, oh, I can't find you. Or you may be under a different number or something like that. Type in the last 4 digits. And it'll come up and it'll find. So it's very easy to search. I can search by name or phone number or whatever I want to do here. Like if I'm just searching for, Janice or whatever it is, I can find that. Right. So then we come in and we say, well, I can't find you in the system. Ideally, what you would do at that point, like I can just come in and do a cash sale without knowing the actual, customer's name. But ideally, what you'd want to do is come in here and just say new contact. And what this does is it creates a new contact, as it kind of says. But we treat contacts as cash customers. So what that means is when I create a new record here to record exactly who's buying this product, like in this case, if I chosen it would be Janice or these other people here. Well, this is actually a contact within the system, but we can, for a cash customer, we can still track that person's individual purchase history. We can market to them. We can do all that kind of stuff without having to create a new actual customer. So this new account customer is actually creating a customer within Business Central. Well, you don't need to do that for all your people coming in. I can still do a cash sale, but know exactly who I sold it to. So if I did this, I'd come in there, person would say, what's your name? Oh, it's, Fred. And that's all he wants to give you. And I'm like, what's your phone number? It's like, blah, blah, blah. It gives you some phone number or something. An email address. Like if you can capture some basic information on this, that's ideal. Because now, again, we've got, if you have their email, you can market to them. But more importantly, we know exactly who that is. If I need to take deposits and things like that, we've got a name associated with those transactions. And then I would just hit OK, and it would start that sales order. Okay. But for me, I want to go back to Janice here. I'm going to use her as an example. So I'm going to choose Janice as the customer that I'm doing, and away we go. And again, type in part of her phone number or part of her name, and it pops it up. I grab it, and I've got my sales order, and I'm ready to go. So everything is already set. We know the company she works for. They happen to be a cash customer. We know it's Janice. All of that kind of stuff is here. And now I can start entering the order. You have an option. Like when I loaded this, it started with a sales order. But there's an option. If you are more likely to get people bringing stuff up to the counter, instead of starting with the sales order, it could start in the quick scan mode instead. And the quick scan mode allows me to simply come in here and scan barcodes to, record what they're actually buying. So I would just scan a barcode and it will build up my sales lines as I'm scanning. So that's another way to do it. Very quick and easy. You just have a little USB barcode scanner, and I can go ahead and start scanning, which I'll do here. So I'll scan, that item there. It comes in, logs it, shows me a bunch of stuff about it. I can scan it again if I bring in another one. So now I've got quantity of 2. I can change the quantities here. So this is, a nice interface if you've got barcodes on your products. You don't have to really type anything in or touch the screen to make this work. Okay, and I'm just going to go back to the sales order. I could take payment here, but I'm going to go back to the sales order, and I'm actually going to delete this line because I don't want to sell this anyway. And we're going to talk about, if I have to actually do a search for an item, right? So somebody comes in and maybe it is a part sale. I drop some kind of fitting or bolt or whatever on the table in front of me, and they say, "Hey, you got one of these?" Okay, well, maybe it's a wheel. Let's do the wheel. So I can do, front wheel, type that in. Oh, look, yeah, easy, right? That's standard Business Central. I can just type in the description, and I got 3 options here for front wheelie type stuff. But that actually doesn't really work because Business Central expects this text to be in that order. And when you're dealing with, lots of items from different vendors and things like that, descriptions are not consistent. They never are. So instead of doing the search there, I can use the enhanced search. And the enhanced search, what that does is allows me to search on a ton of stuff. And this is one of the nice key benefits of counter sales, because I can come in here and I can type in, the same search, front wheel. And now you can see I've actually got 4 options. And the reason is it's looking for both those terms within the text. I mean, that in today's, age, you'd just expect that to work because, you do that in Google or whatever, you just type in some words and it doesn't care what order it's in. Well, it's the same thing in counter sales. I type in front wheel and I find the stuff with front wheel, but anything here where it's like wheel front, it'll find that as well. And then on top of that, it's going to give me a whole bunch of information about, is it on order or everything else. And here's where, again, it's defaulted to my location because that's the location this terminal is in. But I could actually go in there and select other locations to search, or I could use this My Locations option. And what that does is it just updates all of these totals based on those locations that I'd set up. So I have 3 additional locations I normally look at, right? In fact, scroll down here, those 3 locations that I normally look at are now represented in this grid here. A few other things you can do in the search. So there's a whole bunch of stuff you can search on, right? Normally you use personalization to hide the things that you would never search by. Like if you never search by serial number, you don't care about that, all that sort of thing. One of the nice goodies on here is the ability to search by attribute value as well, right? So if I come in here and I'm looking for a chair, right? Great. Here's all my chairs. And most of these chairs, well, all of the chairs have the, sort of color in there as well. But let's say we didn't have the color in the description and I want to find it by attribute value. So I can do that search by attribute. And now it's going to only show me the chairs that have red in the attribute. And those are the standard Business Central attributes, right? So here we can see the color is red and it brings it up. Or maybe I only want, chairs that have some sort of plastic in them for some reason. So there's all the chairs that are plastic, those types of things. So that attribute search is a lot nicer than doing the, filter by item attributes and everything else. And again, tons of stuff. Like I could type in a serial number that somebody has purchased before, and it'll tell me which item it belongs to, all that kind of stuff right from this search. And it gives me all the supply demand information, like how many I have available, what are coming in, what are in sales orders, all those sorts of things are here. Now, what I'm going to do, I wasn't actually looking for a chair. I was actually looking for a table. So we'll search for a table. That's the guy I want. And again, we can see all sorts of information about it here. And I'm going to bring that table into my sales order. So again, that search, especially if you're in an environment where, you are sort of distribution, you're selling parts or selling individual items that sometimes it's like, it says 1 inch, other times it says, 1 and then double quotes for it. Like those sorts of things that enhanced search really, really helps with. But I'm going to bring this guy in and I'm going to buy one of these tables, right? And a couple of things here while we're on this. So again, it tells me the availability. I don't really actually have enough stock to sell here, but I'm going to sell it anyway. And down here, this frequently bought together, This is coming in and telling me automatically. So you don't have to, manually type any of the stuff in. This is saying when people buy this table, these are the things they typically buy with it. So it's just like, you go into Amazon or whatever. This is creating this list dynamically based on actual sales history. So we know that when we sell the table, quite often we sell black chairs and some blue chairs and red chairs and everything else. So this is a great way to upsell, right? Like if I sell bike or something like that, or coffee maker, which is the new stuff in Business Central. I sell a coffee maker. Well, it'll suggest coffee and filters and all sorts of things based on my past sales history. And the nice thing about this is now I can say, hey, yeah, you want that table? Well, there's a bunch of chairs that go with that. What kind of chair do you want? And they can say, oh yeah, I'll take the blue chairs. That sounds good. And I can just come in here and add it to the order, or I can do select more and I can add all of these things to the order. I'll just add those blue chairs onto the order and away I go, right? So simple as that. And we've updated our sales order. So that's basically it. I can come in here, create the sales order, indicate what I'm doing. It's got the totals at the bottom, and away I go. Now at this point, I might want to take payment, or I might want to take a deposit because maybe these chairs are a special order item. I don't have enough in stock, or I don't have enough of the table in stock. So I can actually go in and I can take deposits on any of this stuff here. So unlike the prepayment stuff in Business Central, these deposits apply to sales tax or VAT or whatever you've got, and work way better than the prepayments. I can take as many deposits as I like. So I can do layaways, right? I can take a deposit every week on a sales order until it's paid off, those types of things. And when we take that payment, I'm going to skip a few things here. I'm just going to show you the basic. Maybe he just wants to give me a cash deposit of $100, and that's basically it. And then I can come in here, hit OK to post, or I can manually post the deposit. And if I do the post and print, what that's going to do is generate a deposit receipt that they can use to keep track of their deposits. But I can come in here, I can post these deposits. It'll print it out, and away we go. They've got their deposit receipt. It shows up as a deposit here. And now, when this order comes in, I can apply that deposit to the product that I want to sell. So that deposit functionality is really nice. You can use that on any sales order. And again, we track that deposit directly to Janice. And speaking of tracking things directly to Janice, you'll see up here, we've got the sales history. Well, that's a sales history specifically for Janice. We can also get the sales history for Afterfield here, but for Janice, here's her sales history. I want to find out what she's bought previously. Here's all the things that she's previously bought from us, right? When she bought it, all that kind of stuff. And I can come in, same thing. She wants to rebuy it. I add the selection to the order, and I can repurchase those same items. So that's kind of nice, right? And again, it's even if she is a cash sale, like she's with this Afterfield company here, but if this was a cash sale, I would still know what Janice has bought, even though she's not set up as an actual customer within Business Central. Okay, and a few other things we can do here. Well, I'll skip that for now. So down here, back on the sales order, I've taken that deposit. I will mention this related items here. This is if you manually want to specify additional items you may want to upsell. So yeah, I bought this chair. Here are some of the items that I might want to sell with that chair that maybe don't show up in frequently bought. Or if this chair is out of stock, this might be my substitution list. So this is a list of items that you manage manually that can apply to this. And this frequently bought is the one that's automatically generated. And a whole bunch of stuff. There's the dock extender that I mentioned earlier, where I can drag and drop stuff into Business Central, either at the line level or at the header level. Now, back to this. Let's say I come in here and we're looking at the price on this. And by the way, the unit cost, that's an option. You can hide or show that for the employees, because you don't want necessarily, people at the counter seeing what your actual cost is. You can hide that, and you can actually hide the margins and things like that from the counter sales employees. Let's say they come in here and the customer says, $973, that's too high for this. Can you give me a break? And I say, sure, I'll give you a 10% discount on that. And as soon as I do that, it pops up our price override reporting capability. Now, I'm allowed to do a price override. If I wasn't, this override code would be enabled, and I'd have to enter an override code in order to do that. So the idea behind that is I've got somebody that's not allowed to change pricing. They got to call over a manager to enter their code to allow this price change. And that gives me a summary of what the price change is going to be, right? So if I give them a 10% discount, this is going to be my new price. And then I can indicate why I changed that price, right? So maybe he's just a nice guy, and that's my reason code. But, price match or damaged product or whatever codes you want to define in here to track why we're doing those discounts. So that can be handy, if people are diligent, in entering that reason code. You can go in there and figure out you're constantly price matching. Maybe you need to do something with your pricing, right? Anyway, I can do that. And then that basically tracks that, and I can report on all those pricing changes. Similarly, if I come in here and the guy says, well, I actually don't want those chairs, or maybe we come in here and, we're going to add another item. Maybe we're going to add in some speaker cables or something like that. And then he says, you know what? I don't want those cables. They're far too expensive for me, whatever. What I'll do, instead of just deleting that line, I can come in here and I can create the lost sale. And when I do that, create lost sale, it's the same sort of concept, comes up and allows me to specify a reason we lost that sale. So maybe the price was too high or didn't have inventory, whatever codes you want to define. And then again, I can report on why people are coming up to the counter talking to me and then running away, and put comments or whatever I need there. So when I do that, basically it's saying we lost it. Do you want to remove it? And I delete it. So it's about 2 extra clicks compared to just deleting that line. And now I've got that intelligence, that analytic stuff I can do to figure out why I'm losing sales. All right. Now, let's say that this is exactly what they want. We've taken a deposit, but now we're going to, take payment for, the remainder of the order. So let's just zero this out. I'm not going to he's not going to leave the store with this today. And this is how we do sort of a special order. There's standard Business Central capabilities for special orders in there as well. But I'm not going to ship this today, which means he's not going to leave the store with this today. He's only going to leave the store with this table. But he's ready to go. He's got the table, and now we're ready to actually, come in and take the payment. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go into hit the post hotkey, and it pops up, and it asks, and it says, hey, there's deposits on this. Do you want to apply the deposit? Because I could come in and say, yeah, I want to take that $100 deposit that he's put on here and apply it to this payment. So this is what he owes right now. $875 is what he owes right now. And the rest we would apply when that special order comes in. So I'm not gonna apply that deposit. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take, a payment, either cash, check, Visa, or any of these things. So if you don't have the integrated credit card processing, which a lot of customers don't, I can come in here and I can choose Visa, and I can, put in the amount and everything else, run the card through the terminal that I have with my bank, and type in the authorization number, and I can process the credit card that way. I don't have to have integrated, credit card processing if I don't want. And I'm just going to delete this line because I don't want this guy. But I can do that, right? I can enter any payment methods here. The other options that I mentioned, I could come in, maybe they have a saved card on file. I can come into the saved cards, and they say, I just use the company Visa that's on file. I can grab this and put that payment amount through a saved card. Or if it's maybe a phone order, like I mentioned, I can come into the virtual terminal and, and just enter the card details. So somebody's on the phone, I ask them for all their card details, they hit OK, and it's going to process that credit card automatically. What I'm going to do, though, is I'm going to use, the guy's in front of me, he's got his credit card in his hand. I'm going to use the terminal that I have, sort of at the station. And what that terminal looks like, here it is on my desk. So because we're in test mode, it says lane is closed, but obviously in a live environment, this is going to have, the text that you want or the customer wants on this terminal, just like any retail store you go to. Over here is a receipt printer and a cash drawer. You'll see that in more detail in a sec. But this is the terminal I'm going to use, right? So I'm going to have the guy either tap or use the PIN and chip, or swipe their card to process the payment. So that's what we're going to do. And so I'm going to go in here Actually, let's go back to this. Well, let's do this one. I'm gonna come in here. I'm gonna hit terminal up at the top, and it's gonna ask me the amount I wanna charge to that card. I'm just gonna hit OK. And what it does at that point is it actually sends it to the terminal. You can't really see that. Let's just do this. Right. So it says, hey, it's $875. Do you want to do that? I'm going to go, yes, that's good. Then I'm going to take my credit card, my actual card here, and I'm just going to swipe it again. You can tap or pen, but I'm going to swipe the card, and it goes through and it approves it. And then when we go back into, Business Central here, it's come in, it brings in the authorization number, the payment type, which you can't really see there, payment type, all of that kind of stuff, and we're good to go. So that processed the card automatically. And so then when I hit OK here, just because I might want to, maybe they say, oh, no, I don't want to use that card, or I want to add something to it or whatever, but I'm just going to come in here, hit OK. And what it'll do then is it'll process the payments, post everything, and exactly what you'd expect. And usually that's pretty much instant, right? It'll print the receipt immediately and open the cash drawer optionally, and you're good to go. So again, normally you hit OK, out comes the receipt, and cash drawer pops open. And if it's a swipe that I did, normally you'd have 2 copies print out. And this receipt, pretty typical, right? They've got a place to sign at the bottom, and we'd have 1 copy for the cash drawer and 1 copy for the customer to take. You can see sort of the company logo on there. We've got the details, the last 4 digits of the credit card, and all of that kind of stuff is on this. This is just a word layout, so you can make this look however you like. It's just a standard word layout for this receipt in Business Central. You can put whatever logos you want on there, whatever text you want on there, all that kind of stuff, and away we go. So pretty standard retail stuff. I run the card. It's pretty seamless, exactly how you'd expect it to work in retail. Get the receipt, cash drawer pops open, and I'm good to go. Okay, so that's as simple as it goes. Not much more to it than that. Now, a couple of other things while I'm here. Since I had the webcam go on there, I will show you this as well. So this is running on a tablet. This tablet happens to have a barcode scanner in it. It's a rugged tablet. But if you're doing floor sales, I mean, you can run counter sales on this pretty easily, right? So glare there, let's just turn the brightness down. I'll be able to see it better. So you can come in here and you can actually use counter sales on this pretty darn well, even without a dedicated sort of point of sale interface. I can come in there, open up orders, do all the kind of stuff I would normally need to do, if I'm wandering around the floor with the customer. All right. Now, back to the application here. Obviously, in retail, you're going to have returns. So there's the ability to do returns right from within the system with the return order wizard. So I can just come in and create a normal sales return, just like you would in Business Central, sales return order, or I can use the return order wizard. And what that allows me to do, and again, it's been over a minute, so I got to type in who I am. And I can come in and I can look at all the sales that we've done in the last little while. This is the one I just did. Choose one of those guys, and then decide what the customer is returning. So they show up with their receipt, which has the invoice number and the order number on it and everything else. I select that from the list. Actually, let me back up a sec. I went through that too quickly. So customer shows up, they've got the receipt, it's got the order number on it. I simply come in here and type in part of that order number, and it finds it. I'm like, oh yeah, that's these guys. And away I go. And then it lists all the items that they purchased. And I can actually come in here and decide what they're returning. So if they had multiple items, I could come in here and adjust the quantity to return in the screen. And when I've got, the items that they want to return, hit OK. And now I've got an option. If they're just returning it for a refund, that's the most common. I just hit yes. But I can take the return and not give them a refund, right? So that money that they've paid basically stays on account. Or if it's an account customer, like we've been talking about cash sales mostly, but it works just fine with customers that have terms, right? If they have net 30, that sort of thing. This refund and replacement order, maybe they're returning it because it was damaged and I don't have another one, or I have another one in stock and I'm just going to replace it. So I'll actually do a return on that and then create a sales order to give them a new unit and maybe some other stuff, or maybe a discount on the new unit I'm giving them and those sorts of things. So the first thing is it'll refund it and then create a sales order for the replacement. And then the last one is instead of refunding them the money, it'll turn what they've paid into a deposit on a new sales order that allows me to go in and do a special order for the replacement. So a whole bunch of options here. It makes it really easy. It creates those documents for you automatically. Again, the most typical one is return a refund. If I do that, it comes in, it'll bring in everything, the original pricing, all that kind of stuff, very similar to the way normal Business Central works. But when we do that refund, it's going to refund based on that original card and authorization number. So we're going to basically refund their card that they used to pay. Or we could refund cash or whatever if we really wanted. But, that's basically how that works. So a couple quick clicks and I can easily do a refund or a replacement as well. Okay. All right. Now, let's see how we're doing on time. Well, not too bad. I can keep going a little bit. The last thing maybe I'll talk about here real quick is the cash drawer reconciliation stuff. So again, if we're dealing with those cash drawers and those sorts of things, at the end of the day, you need to reconcile it. So there is a end of day routine that you run that will basically close the day, gives you a report on all the transactions and your margin. If you're a store manager, it'll give you your margin. And it'll also move the posting dates ahead so that I can't accidentally post orders that I started yesterday using yesterday's date. It always moves everything forward to the current date. And then one of the other things you'll need to do is the cash drawer reconciliation. You'll need to figure out, does my cash drawer match what I actually took in for cash and everything else? So for that, we have the cash drawer reconciliation capability. And you'll notice here that, each terminal that we're on, like the one I'm on, has a dedicated cash register associated to it. So if I have 5 terminals within like 5, screens or point of sale terminals within my environment, each one of those will have a cash register associated with cash drawer associated with it and a printer and a credit card terminal and everything else. And now I can do reconciliation on this specific cash drawer. When I open this guy up, I already started it before. What it does, it gives you some basic details up at the top here. But what it does is it comes in and it brings in the starting amount. So this is my initial float for the day, right? For when I started the day. This is what I started with. And then I simply come in here and enter what I ended with. And you'll notice you set up these, these denominations and everything else, whether it's a coin or a note. And of course, different jurisdictions will have different things. Like in Canada, we don't have a dollar bill, we have a dollar coin and a $2 coin. But you'll set all that stuff up. And then I can just come in and say, yeah, I ended the day with 50 of those and 33 of those and 12 of those and so on all the way down. And at the end, what it's going to do is it's going to tell you, do your cash sales match what's in the cash drawer? And if not, I can do an adjustment. I can enter the adjustment that needs to be made to address that discrepancy. And then once I've done that, I post it. And that'll actually post to the GL. So there's 2 accounts. There's an adjustment account to say, what did we lose or gain in the cash register today? And it'll also post anything else that I might add to the cash register in here. So it'll post the adjustment, it'll post everything, it'll post the cash to the GL accounts, and I'm good. So it's not just a simple sort of reporting thing. It actually posts to the GL and does all of that kind of stuff for you, automatically makes the cash drawer reconciliation at the end of the day very simple. And of course, you can, if you don't want your people running the cash registers to do this reconciliation, you could just print out a report, have them type in or write in what the ending quantity of each of these things were, have somebody else type it in, and then post that reconciliation. So it is quite capable, right? We're at the level now with counter sales where we can do anything pretty much retail oriented. The only thing that's currently missing is a nice sort of touch screen interface that you're going to get your high school students using to run your cash register. And we actually have a prototype of that that I've shown off in the past that'll be coming out likely later this year, that you'll actually be able to do that more traditional retail without having to use the Business Central interface. But again, the Business Central interface isn't bad. if you do run it on a tablet or a touch screen, it actually works quite well as it is. And you have full access to everything in Business Central, of course, based on permissions. But as a professional salesperson, if I'm in there and I don't have stock, I want to look at the purchase orders. I may want to create a purchase order right then and there using the standard create purchase document stuff. So there's lots of things you can do in counter sales that you can't do in a traditional point of sale system that you might integrate into Business Central. With that, thanks everybody. I hope you have a great rest of the week, and hopefully we will talk again soon.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe for more great content, and remember to hit that bell icon to stay updated. See you in the next video.